am Dr. Melissa Longo. Welcome to Everyday Rockstar Moms, where every episode I'll interview moms just like you who are rocking it in their homes, raising their children, managing their households, building their careers, working on their relationships, dealing with challenges, finding success, trying to find balance, and themselves along the way. Every episode you'll hear from women just like you of all ages and stages of motherhood, sharing their stories, life experiences, and leaving you with practical tips, ideas, and inspiration to help you rock your life. On today's episode, I'm chatting with Michele Rich. Michele is the mother of a teenage daughter named Hannah. She's also a psychotherapist in private practice and actively involved in work with the environmental initiatives through the Environment Network. Today, she shares her ideas about what motherhood has taught her, the impact of some of the challenges she has faced, why she decided to go back to school, and how she manages to make it all work with balancing her family life, her marriage, and her career. She shares what I think is one of her secret weapons to giving her focus, helping her prepare for challenges, calming her in some times of seeming chaos of parenthood, and one of her strategies for even supporting her marriage. This is the top thing she recommends to all of her clients. I thoroughly enjoyed today's interview. I hope you do too. Take a listen. Hi, Michele. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you're here too. I've known you for quite some time, and I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about your journey as a mother. Perhaps for our listeners, you could just give us a quick little synopsis about who you are, what you're doing now in your life, how old your daughter is, and all of that good stuff.
Well, I have been working in the environmental field for the majority of my professional life, and then I had some pretty interesting events happen in my personal life that made me realize, a major part of the reason why people cannot care about the environment the way I care about it is because our needs aren't being met. So when a person's needs are met, then they are able to think about the things outside of them. So I really had to look at what am I doing to help others meet their needs, including my children. And when I only have one child, but I consider all of my nieces, nephews, friends, kids, all my children as well. So what am I doing for them to help them live better lives? What am I doing to help them in their future lives as well? So that's why I turned to go back to school and study psychotherapy to help people meet their basic needs. So that's where I'm at now. I'm practicing psychotherapy.
Great. And you're still involved in some of the environmental initiatives?
Very much so. Yeah.
And you have one daughter. Tell us about Hannah.
She's great. She's a fun kid. She's 16, learning how to drive, scaring the pants off me. But I love it. And I'm so thankful, so very thankful that I have the privilege of being a parent. She's been an easy kid, but also I think most joyful. And if there's one thing that I'm really thankful for on a daily basis, it's the fact that I get to be a mom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we take for granted, I think, some of the days, especially the days that, I mean, you're in those fun teenage years right now, but, the days when they're not sleeping at night and they're, or they're sick and they're dealing with their own challenges aren't always easy, and sometimes I think we can take those days for granted.
Yeah. Yep. That's for sure.
I think that who we are as women certainly shapes how we run our lives and how we parent our children. What have been some of the defining moments for you in your life, and how have they shaped who you are as a woman and a mother?
One of the biggest defining moments in my life was when, because I had a great deal of difficulty conceiving and getting pregnant. So I spent a great deal of time with my gynecologist. And one of the moments that just when you asked that question was when he encouraged me to study Qigong. And Qigong is a martial art. It's the original martial art. And it essentially is for health and vitality. And that changed my life. So the practice of meditation on a daily basis helped me to figure out where I'd lost myself and, actually who I am. So I would say that piece alone has helped me in so many ways, in so many parts of my life. But the biggest part is how I parent, how I mother my daughter, and the kids around me, because I have that daily practice. It just keeps me grounded.
So are there times that have been challenging, for example, with Hannah, and you just take a few minutes and incorporate some like on the spot meditation into the day? Is that what you mean?
I wish. No, it's that
Hiding into the closet to take some 10 deep breaths while so I don't lose my cool.
No, there are moments like that, but I more than anything, I start my day with 15 minutes of quiet meditation. And some days are better than others, but I get up, since Hannah was a tiny, tiny baby, I would get up 15 minutes before she would. Really tricky when she's tiny, and I swear they're all ears when they're, but she got, and I have to admit, I mean, I only have one child, so it's probably a little easier than when you have three or four, or two.
Right.
But it was being able to just take that time and go to a space where I could be quiet and go within and, examine what was going on for me. Then later in the day, when I'm faced with those moments where I really want to lose my cool, that I'm able to kind of get back to that spot, and somehow it just helps. It seems to keep your cool longer. It seems to make you think clearer. I can't explain it, but I just know that it works.
Yeah, well, you're certainly not alone in feeling that way. I would guess then that that's something that you recommend to your clients as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All the time.
So let's talk a little bit about your career. I mean, now you're practicing psychotherapy. You're also teaching. You're also involved in the Environment Network. What's it like trying to juggle all of these different, roles within your career, doing work that you love, it sounds like, with family life?
It's fun. It's a bit sometimes hectic, sometimes frustrating. I think the part that I feel sad about is that time seems to go so fast, and I don't get the extra time with my daughter. So I feel like that's perhaps a little bit out of balance. However, we've figured out ways to, have little tiny moments with each other or hours so that we can all be a family together, or I can have that one-on-one time. So it's about finding those little holes and taking advantage of them. So it's a challenge, but I like it. And all my jobs seem to go together. And where I'm lucky is that she's actually interested in what I do. So she likes talking
you
about
lots
it.
of good questions. Can you give us an example of some of the little ways that you fit in that time together?
The best, well, as a mom, you're driving your kid everywhere all the time.
I was going to say driving is really key as they hit a certain age.
But all ages.
Yeah.
All ages. Those moments when babies are teeny tiny, those are teaching moments. And listening moments. Those are the moments when it's what I call car therapy, because there's not a lot of pressure on them to perform, because you're not sort of facing them expecting an answer. You're kind of relaxed. You're stuck together in the car. I mean, it's also good for relationships with, your significant other.
Yeah,
when
definitely.
When you're stuck in the car together, you've got to talk. So.
You can't go walk away and do the laundry or go and get something else to distract you.
Yeah, so it's those moments, but it's also hey, we've got an extra half an hour. Let's go get a hot drink or, like take us, I call them holla hours, where it's like you pretend you're on holidays for an hour
Hmm.
or for a few minutes and you find a place that you haven't been to before or, so you just pretend you're away and you take an hour and you pretend you're on holidays together.
Yeah, I love that. I think that all too often, we think we have to have a holiday by going someplace else, but sometimes the biggest gift we can give ourselves is just a freedom of schedule for a short period of time, or, exploring your own community and just doing something that takes you away from that routine of, school, work, mornings, all the stuff that our houses demand of us.
Hmm.
Was there a time when Hannah was younger when you didn't work, or when she was an infant and a toddler, and then in school? Did you ever have to put your career sort of on hold to mother her?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. I was back at work when Hannah was 3 weeks old. Um, so
That must have been tough.
it was it was more than tough. It was heartbreaking, but here's where I was very lucky in that because the Environment Network at that time was a very tiny organization, I was the only one there. I was able to bring her to work with me. So she was under my desk and I was rocking her in the bucket, and she was happy. So she got to. My sister used to tease me because she said, when that kid finally goes to school, she's going to say, "What the heck is this? I've been at work for 5 years. What do I have to be here for?" So it was a bit of a stressful time
Yeah.
because you're struggling to make ends meet and you're juggling a baby and having to go to meetings and things. But that's where this community is fantastic because um, the people in the community were always very happy to hold a baby in a meeting. Um,
Well, I was just
but
going to say she probably brought a lot of joy to people who you came into contact with in your workday.
yeah, very much so.
What do you
The
think has
thing
been? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the only way that I was able to do the things for this community the way that I was is because of the support I have, the support from my family and my mother-in-law in particular, and my parents were very helpful. They were extremely flexible, and it's that support that you have that really makes it. So that's the only. I'm very thankful for the support I have.
It sounds like that was a tough time for you as a mom. But what would you say it was? One of the hardest, biggest struggles you've had as a mom, and how have you gotten through it?
I think the biggest struggle I ever had as a mom was when when my husband got very sick, and I don't feel as though I handled that well for my daughter. Um, Eventually, I learned through the process, though, that she needed to know the information. She needed to know what was going on. I tried too hard to make it better than it was and to protect her. And what I should have done from the start was just let her know what was going on and be straight with her, but maybe not, provide her with too much detail, but just enough so that she would understand where things were at.
Mm-hmm.
It was hiding things that's where I feel was difficult, and I think she found it the most difficult as well. So if there's a mistake, I would say that was knowing the best thing how to handle that was my greatest struggle ever.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that maybe this is, too idealistic, but that, mistakes are the ones that we don't learn something from. I mean, life is
Hmm.
never perfect. And there's so many things that happen that we can look at as opportunities to try to, succeed in a different way. And, we can't go backwards. And I know a lot of people, we like to go backwards and reverse, certain behaviors and patterns that maybe we had. But, that must have been a really difficult time for you, just even as a woman. Your
Yeah.
husband is sick and you're trying to be there for him as well as maintain your work life and your home and your daughter. And there
Yeah.
would have been a lot of stress on you as a woman during that time.
Oh, for sure. Yep. It was incredibly draining. But we managed. We all got through. He got better. My daughter, my daughter, I don't know how to explain it. She came through it. She helped me understand where I went wrong. And like you said, it was interesting. Kids are amazing. They tell us what they need, but we just have to listen. And
Yeah.
same with us. Like as a female, as a woman, as a human, I realize all too often the times that I'm telling myself what I need to do, what I want, and I don't listen. So that's, yeah,
I've
still on
often
my to-do
thought,
list.
yeah, since my son Max, he's 13 now. I remember thinking when he was in his infancy that, wow, like, children I think are so beautiful in their ability to teach us, help us complete our own life cycle and help us learn. You certainly see the strengths and weaknesses in your character when you start to parent a child.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
When do you feel now that things have shifted? Your daughter's older, and when kind of times do you feel like you perform your best? Are there certain things that you do within your lifestyle? I mean, you did talk about meditation,
Yep.
but there are other things that you do that you feel dramatically affect your ability to just perform at work and at home.
It's a huge part of it is making sure that I exercise on a daily basis, that I eat properly and stay away from the foods that I know have an effect on the way I think. So for me, certain foods affect how much concentration I can do. So if I don't take care of myself, like if say I have too much sugar, I'm not any good to anybody. So I really have to do that. And food for me is the thing that is my biggest ticket. So I've got to start the day with a good breakfast, that kind of thing. And then I feel like I perform best. I also feel like if I can just something as simple as get up, get outside, go for a walk, it changes my mood, changes my outlook, keeps me going. And I mean, let's face it, when you're a therapist, you're not seeing people at their best all the time. So you kind of have to be the best for them. So if I don't take care of myself, I'm not doing anybody any favors.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to be mentally aware and sure of yourself, and physically have the energy and the stamina, definitely, when you work with people.
Yes.
What are the things that bring you the most joy these days?
That's a really good question.
I know you said, getting outside, and I'm guessing that meditation would be part of it for you.
For sure. I think when do I shine? One of your questions here in print is, when do you shine? And I would say I shine the best if I've had a good daily dose of laughing. If, especially with my family, if we can sit and watch something funny on television as a family, or you just have those inside jokes. If you can find the humor in whatever you're doing, do it, have a good giggle, a really good belly laugh, and it just, oh man, I just feel like that's the ticket.
Yeah, I feel like when your kids are little, like, I mean, I see so many kids in my practice, and toddlers make me laugh all the time.
Don't they?
They're funny, but I know sometimes when you're the mom, and you've got them throwing food across the room, or they're fighting with their sibling, or they're dealing with the runny nose. Like, it's not always easy to laugh in those moments, but I find it helpful sometimes to even just jot them down when they were younger, like the silly, goofiest things that would come out of their mouth, because it kind of brings you back, right?
Oh, so true. And especially going through teenage years, sometimes it can be challenging. So, being able to laugh right now, I'm trying to, be okay sitting in the passenger side of the car,
Hmm.
being able to, to kind of bring those giggles up when it's stressful, it's important.
Yeah, I think that I like that the people that I've spoken to and interviewed recently on the podcast have referred to the teenage years as the fun years because I think your words are powerful, right? And so many times people talk about teenagers being so difficult and such a stressful time. And I've had moms tell me, every gray hair I have and every wrinkle I have was from those 5 years. And I think you're gonna get what you what you expect out of it in some ways too, wouldn't you say?
Mm. I'd agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, from my professional awareness, I think a lot of times our teenage years are very stressful years for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as parents, every stage that your child goes through, you get to re-experience your stuff from that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you're the mom of two, you're going to be experiencing, say, what a 14-year-old is going through, and then also you'll re-experience what you went through at 14, but you know what your younger son is going to be going through as well.
Hmm.
So you're experiencing both those stages at the same time. So for a mom who has three teenage boys, no wonder she's nuts.
Yeah, no kidding.
you know, like she's going through their stuff, her stuff.
Yeah.
It's awful.
So the
Yep.
question I have for you now, but it's making me want to pick your brain as a therapist because I'm sure, like, does your training now as a psychotherapist affect your mothering, or do you look back now and think, "Oh my gosh, I wish I had done this differently"?
Yes, and yes.
Yeah.
Um, there's not a lot that I wish I'd done differently because somehow I feel pretty good about the past. Um, but do I change the way I might react to certain things because of my therapy training? Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
A perfect example is today. Uh, I was dealing with stuff in the morning. It was a crazy time, and my daughter needed help with something. And it was my therapy training that caught the look on her face as she walked away that said, "Don't just let that go."
Hmm.
So I followed her and, found out what was going on. When I think that's perhaps if I didn't have the knowledge and awareness that I have, I might have missed that moment. I
Hmm.
might have missed that tiny, the way her face dropped when I said whatever it was,
Hmm.
and then so that could have put, a wall between us. But luckily, you know, I chased her down and said, okay, wait, what's going on? And
Hmm.
we were able to work through it.
So, as a therapist, then, would there be advice you would give to moms? If there was one tip you would say, I mean, I know we could talk about this in a whole other interview, all the tips you might
Yeah.
have, but
I would say for any mom, any parent, any individual, do your best not to let your stuff get in the way. Do your best to pay attention to um, those moments where uh, it's your ego that's saying, well, there's no way I'm going to let you do that because I wasn't allowed to do it, or you know what I mean, like,
right.
because we can do that so easily. We can get in our kids' way by being a teenager ourselves, or a toddler ourselves. So pay attention to your own stuff and put it aside and make sure that you're giving your child what they need.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It sounds like your therapist training is certainly influencing you as a mother. What have been, or who has been the biggest influence on you as a mother in your personal life?
My mom and my mother-in-law, they have been my greatest teachers. And I cannot express how awesome those two women are.
Yeah, well, you're lucky then.
Ah, so lucky.
Yeah.
I would say that both of them, I would choose them both as friends, and I consider them both to be very good friends. I'm very lucky that way.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you ever, sometimes parents can have a tough time when their children maybe make different parenting decisions that they may have made. Not even just parents, but, friends and acquaintances. I mean, moms are always dealing with advice and feedback and even criticism about their choices as a woman or a mom. Did you ever deal with any of that? And if so, how did you respond to it?
Have I ever had to deal with criticism around my choices as a mom? Definitely. When I went back to school, um, there was some pushback about that from um, certainly not my family, but some people would say, well, how do you have time to do that? And aren't you missing out on some of the greatest times of your daughter's life? And you only have one, those kinds of
Mm-hmm.
questions. It wasn't really criticism. It was just sort of like, what are you doing? Why would you do that now?
Hmm.
Um, so how did I deal with it? I just didn't pay attention to it because
Yeah.
I did have the support from my daughter.
Right.
And so just like we talked about earlier, we took those moments when we could to be together. So we had our dining room table it's a big table, and we constantly had for years basically it was the homework station. So the two of us would sit and do our homework together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was brilliant actually. I want to say we had a lot of fun. I would learn something, she would learn something, we'd share it with each other. So it was cool.
Well,
And
and I think you're giving her something to aspire to as well. I mean, it wouldn't be easy if she was younger, if she was a teenager. I mean, at any time people pick up and decide to go back to school or change their career or start a new business, there's always going to be a change in the
yeah,
family dynamic. But I guess you always have to look at the alternative of weighing it with other, with the waiting, right? And you
yeah.
sacrifice, as moms sacrifice a ton as far as sometimes their sleep, their
Mhm.
career paths. And I think that it's never perfect and easy in any situation. You just make the best of it, and it sounds like you certainly did that.
Yeah, I actually the doing homework together came from a friend of mine. He's on the board of directors with the Environment Network, Dr. Peter Wilmot. And he was the one who said to me, go back to school. You can do it. And he was the one, because he did his PhD when his children were a little bit older than what my daughter was.
Mm.
And he was the one that said to me, set up that space in your house and just, that's your together time. And he said, you'll be surprised at how close you get. And he was right. And I'm really thankful that he suggested that.
Yeah, that's great. I mean,
Hmm.
I think if we're open to advice and ideas, it comes in sometimes the most unexpected ways.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about your marriage. I mean, you've been married. You talked about your husband, being ill, but in all those other times, I'm sure there's been some struggles with parenting and finding time for each other. And anything you want to share about that? How do you keep your marriage healthy?
Laughter, for one
Yeah.
thing, being able to laugh, making sure that I'm open to his bad sense of humor. Um, and being able to see the humor, just like with your kids, when they're being total armpits, being able to see, okay, this is only going to last for a short period of time.
Yeah.
The same thing happens in marriage, especially in ours. Um, he does make me laugh, and it's when I stopped laughing that when I chose not to see the humor, that it was the hardest time. Um, and I think this sounds really sick, but it it did really help our relationship that we've both been through some significant health struggles,
Hmm.
and
Increase your
it's
compassion and your appreciation for each other.
Yeah, when the other one might not be here, you sure go, oh, okay, maybe I'll pay attention to you, and maybe I will laugh at your bad jokes. Um,
Do you have
it,
rituals or ways that you talked about you having the homework table so that you could stay
mhm.
connected with your daughter. Do you guys have any rituals that help you stay connected with each other?
Well, yes, like I said, the meditation really helps, particularly with relationship stuff. Um, but also date night.
Yeah.
Um, I would prefer to have a weekly date night, and he's more sporadic, but at least we get some date nights. And it's just being able to, even if it's just like yesterday, you know, do you want to go for a coffee? Yeah. So you take that time to, even though I really wanted to get some other things done, it was, oh, we haven't connected for a few days. This is important. Get in the car and just, you know, you're trapped in the car with each other, so you have to talk to each other
Yeah.
or go for a walk, you know. And then once you get there, yeah, sit down and look at each other for a couple of minutes. And yes, I have to look at your face again. But it's those moments of even if it's just 10 minutes here or there, you really need to take that and make that effort to take that time.
Yeah.
And that's really all it is, right? Is connecting with each other.
Making the effort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and appreciate. I think that effort is everything. I mean, we sometimes we get really attached to the outcome. You
Yeah.
want your partner to take the responsibility for dinner one night, and so they do, and maybe they don't make something the way you would make it, or it's not the best meal you've ever had. But you know
Hmm.
what? They made the effort to help you
Yeah.
out and try to make things a little easier for you. So that's where I think the appreciation should kick in more, not always on the outcome.
The other thing that I learned too is that I have to stop expecting him to love me the way I want to be loved. Does that make sense? So I just have to receive the love that he gives. So, say for instance, I want I want romance. Well, he doesn't do romance,
Hmm.
right? He doesn't get it. He's a hockey guy.
Hmm.
So his idea of romance is um, doing doing things that I don't find romantic.
Or maybe things that he thinks make your life easier, like service type things.
Yeah, or putting toothpaste on my toothbrush, that kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
those little things, I have to accept them and be willing to recognize them. Even though what I would really like is a date night, is dinner out. But I realize now that if I want the romance, I have to make it happen. So on our anniversary, I have to plan the couples massage, or I have to, and I'm okay with that because then I get what I want. So I just have to stop. I have to stop having expectations that I don't communicate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me think of the love languages.
Yeah,
The
that's
theory
exactly.
that people have different ways of expressing and receiving love, where they are, gifts, acts of service, communication. There's certainly ones for children, right? And I think I look at my sons and I know that their ways of showing me love and affection are different based on that. And I think the more we communicate and talk about it, we all understand each other a little bit more. And in our obviously in our partnerships as well, but yeah, I think it's relating to people where they are and accepting them for who they are, not trying to change them, is what it sounds to me like you're saying.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
And also, it's the communication piece is so huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there something, a go-to saying, or I mean, I'm sure you talked about meditation already, but is there a saying or a quote that often inspires you, or that is kind of a running mantra in your head sometimes if there's something stressful?
Yeah, I tried to think of one, and I'm really the one that pops into my head is totally corny.
It's
it's
okay. You can leave it with us here. It's good.
it's that one that's, live, laugh, love,
Mm-hmm.
but the laugh in the middle, to be able to just laugh is so important. Even through our toughest times
Mm-hmm.
as parents, as partners, you know, as at work, even when I'm working with people in therapy, if you can't laugh, if the laughter's gone, it's a real struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm constantly finding ways to laugh. And yeah, so live, laugh, love.
That's good.
Um, I think that's my that's my thing.
Yeah.
If I was going to say that was my my inspiration, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know about that, but yeah.
That's okay. I mean, if those are the words that ground you, I think that's powerful. I mean,
Hmm.
I think that, I mean, part of the whole rock star moms is, we idolize these rock stars for all their performance and how great they are, and we look up to them and we love them. And there's so many moms who are just doing amazing things, and rocking it out in their houses, right? They're pursuing their passions, they're
Hmm.
putting themselves out there and following their instincts as a mother, and sometimes making difficult decisions for their family, getting through tough things, not always, in the public eye like some celebrities are. But I certainly think from our conversation today and just what I've known of you that you're doing a lot of amazing things within your families. What inspires you the most to get out every day and just do the things that you love to do and be the mom you want to be? Do you have anything that really motivates you specifically?
Um, yeah, I would say that it's I want to be able to turn to the kids in my life, um, and be able to say that I did my best. Um, you know, the thing that motivates me around the environment is, um, I don't want them to ever turn to me and say, "Well, where were you when our air was poisoned? Where were you when our rivers were poisoned?" I
Mm-hmm.
want to say, "I was right there."
Mm-hmm.
And you know, particularly now with all of the mental health awareness and issues that we have with our young people, I want to be able to say, "Hey, I am right here. If you need me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm around." So that's what gets me up and gets me going, is to make sure that any kid knows that they can call. So I would say that children, our younger generations, inspire me.
Yeah. We've talked about a lot today. Thank you so much for being here. Do you have any final thoughts or advice or anything at all you'd like to share about motherhood with our listeners?
I would say that I am so glad that I am in the company of other mothers. I'm able to call myself a mother, because I think that if I ever knew what it was that I was missing, I know it would have broken my heart. So
Hmm.
I'm just really, really lucky.
Yeah, I think if I were to ask you, has parenting what you thought it would be? I think I can guess what your answer would be.
What would it be?
That it was better than you expected it to be.
Oh, yeah, I
That's the
never.
consistent response that I always get, and yet it's before women when they're expecting or when they're thinking of conceiving. I find it hard for a lot of women to really, there's a lot of fear and a lot of, well, what if and what's this going to be like, and I don't know if I'm going to connect with the baby. And then once that little person comes into the world,
Mhm.
everything shifts.
Yeah, I said to a young mom, no, a young auntie today. Her niece or nephew is going to be born uh, in the next few days. And I said, it's the neatest thing because she's going to be able to be there. And I said, it's the neatest thing because it's kind of like a love bomb goes off.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what it is. It's like,
Yeah.
so.
And it gets better. Even the fun teenage years, I think, you go through so much with your children from infancy through toddlerhood and school. And then, teenagers, you just help them in different ways and you're proud of them in different ways. And you get to know them as people. And there's struggles at every age and stage. But I think that I think it gets better too.
Yeah. I keep telling my daughter, Hannah that I can hardly wait to be a grandmother. Like I can wait, but I want to be a grandmother like my mom and my mother-in-law because they're so involved in her life, and that's what I want because then there's less pressure. I think there's so much less pressure when you're a grandparent. So it'd be cool to have a show called Rockstar Grandmas.
Well, I think I'm certainly welcoming having some grandmothers, on the show because I think moms at all ages and stages are there to support other women and that their wisdom. I agree with you that, connecting with other moms in my own circle is what gets us through. Yeah. And that's certainly the biggest vision I have for the podcast is just to connect us in the similarities that we all have. Because a lot of times when I see moms in the office, I could feel like I could have the same conversation over and over again or repeat, the same advice because it's so common, some of the challenges and struggles and questions and concerns that women have. And we're not alone. And I think there's such wisdom too in hearing, when I hear stories from you about your daughter who's older than my son, and your advice from those teenage years, it helps me. So I would certainly welcome a grandmother on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep my eyes and ears out for a good one.
Yeah, you can nominate them and we'll fill this podcast with lots of inspiring women.
Cool.
Okay, thanks again, Michele. And if people want to connect with you, how could they get in touch with you?
Well, they can look me up online at www.mrich.ca.
Okay. All of your information will be on the show notes page as well. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look me up online, or they can always call 705-444-3372.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Melissa.
Okay. Thanks, Michele.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
There you have it, a great story today from a mom who rocks. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Be sure to head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. When you do that, I'll be sending you a copy of my top 10 tips for moms. These are some of my personal practical strategies I believe that as women we can all benefit from and help us be emotionally and physically as healthy as we can be. When you're also there on iTunes, I would also love it if you left a review. It's really important to leave some reviews because that helps other people find the podcast and it helps inspire them to listen and potentially gain some insight from the podcast. Tell other moms that you know would benefit from this show, or most certainly nominate them and let me know who you think I should be interviewing. I'd love for you to connect with us on Facebook as well. Head on over to Everyday Rockstar Mom and join our community there. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.